Hello and welcome to the Non-Perfect Parents Club podcast. I'm Emma, a mama of two girls, an ex-nursery practitioner and the creator of the Non-Perfect Parents Club. The Non-Perfect Parents Club is all about support, honesty, truths, acknowledging that none of us can be perfect parents because it's impossible, and basically just speaking the unspoken. The only rule here is no judgment allowed. I love hearing people's stories. I love finding out about other parents, their family dynamics, their values and how they tick. So that is what this podcast is going to be. Some great honest conversations about parenting, hopefully delving into some nitty-gritty thoughts and feelings that will make us all laugh, cry and sigh a big sigh of relief. Hello and welcome back to the Non-Perfect Parents Club podcast. So a slightly different episode for you all today. I am joined by my friend Lauren from Lauren Jane Coaching. She's sat in the hot seat, the host seat, and she's going to be asking me the questions. We're going to have a think about the last year of the podcast and reflect.
Hi Emma, welcome to your podcast.
Thank you.
Is it a bit strange being on the other side?
Yes, it is. It's very strange actually. I feel a bit nervous.
We haven't done this for about a year, I think. But the idea of this is to have a conversation with you and ask you some questions. Just for you to kind of reflect on what you've achieved with the podcast so far, how you felt it's gone. And also, I'm sure the listeners will be quite interested in hearing what your plans are with it for the future as well.
Yep.
So I think you were going to start with just kind of talking about some of the stats, is that right?
Yeah, so the boring stuff.
But the good stuff, because
Yes.
It measures things, doesn't it?
It does, yes. And as I kind of tell everyone, I'm awful with numbers. So I've written down some notes of the stats. So far we've had over 3,000 downloads on the podcast, which basically means listens. Sometimes people don't understand what I mean when I say downloads. It just basically means people listening to it. November was the biggest month for downloads. Rob's episode, if you've listened to that, is the only episode to get 100 downloads in a day, which is pretty amazing. He got 163 downloads in a week, but Kane is still at the top spot with the number 1 episode. We also hit number 63 in the parenting podcast charts in September, which was quite exciting. Obviously, unless you get in regular massive stats every day, you don't stay there. So we were literally in and out within a day, but still to get to that point was quite exciting. Yeah, and then I've just written down, so it took me 8 months to get to 1,000 downloads, and then 4 months later I doubled that, and then 6 weeks later I think I did it again. I got 1,000 downloads, so obviously it's kind of massively ramped up towards the end of last year.
Okay, so sort of reeling off those kind of statistics, how does that make you feel?
I don't know really. I think I always put too much pressure on myself to always do better. I feel like I never do good enough. So to me they're still not like good enough. I need them to be bigger, better, higher, but then I think I also need to acknowledge what I've actually done and how it grew.
Yeah, so with that, so obviously you've got like your stats and things, but on a more personal level, what do you feel like you've learnt doing all of this so far?
That I can do it and that I actually really enjoy it. When I started the podcast, I didn't think I would enjoy it as much as what I have done, and it makes me feel good. I just love doing it so much. I've learned also that I really like hearing different people's experiences and how different everyone is. They can be talking about the same subject, but everyone's got such a different perception of things, a different experience of things. I've learned how to, this is one that I didn't think I'd be able to do, that I've learned how to think on my feet and guide the episode if needed. Sometimes people get a bit nervous and it takes them like a little bit to settle into the episode, but I've kind of figured out that I'm fine with that and I can lead it and I can get it going if I needed to, which I think is something you probably don't think about when you're...
Yeah, because you're on the spot, aren't you, as
Yeah.
well, with your guests. And I guess that's been a learning curve for you as well.
Yeah.
Developing those skills to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So what's different from...
Oh,
when
sorry,
you
one other thing that I've learned as well, and I've
interrupt.
just noticed myself doing it then as well, is that I say yeah too much. Like I say it
I think we all do
a
that.
lot. And I was- yeah,
Maybe not
I
but
was editing one of the episodes once, and my husband came in and he'd been pottering about in the kitchen or whatever, and he'd heard it and he was like, I think you need to stop saying yeah after everything. And I was like, I know, I can't help it, it just comes out naturally.
a little buzzer, like
Yeah.
an electric shock.
See, I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
I need like a different word, like I need a bit, I need to expand my vocab a bit
You
more.
need a list of alternatives that you can
Yeah.
use. So, what I was going to say, I think, was, what's the difference now, sort of, if you're going to, or approaching guests or working with guests, what's different now to how it was when it first started?
I feel like I'm a lot more confident and that I ask more questions. I think I've learned to trust my instinct and go with the flow, and of knowing when someone's happy to delve a little bit deeper or when's not a good time to kind of push more, like that's just to leave it where it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think as a listener, I feel like there's always like jokes and a bit of humour, and that's really the funny moments. But there's like a deeper purpose, isn't there, to what you're talking about as well. And I think what strikes me is there's a really good balance between the two.
Yeah, and it's really important to me to try and get that. Like, I don't want it to be all serious and very deep. I want there to be that humour there, but at the same time, the nature of what we're talking about is quite serious and quite deep. So, yeah.
So in terms of kind of getting feedback, what's your most common feedback that you get?
That I make people feel relaxed. I don't know quite what they expect when they come. I don't know if they think what they think I'm going to be like.
Is this in terms of the guests, or
so when a guest comes to
right,
record, I think that's probably the most feedback I've had, is that, oh, you made me feel really relaxed. It was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Yeah. And then I guess a lot of people, whenever I kind of speak to people about the podcasts, they always say like how well that I'm doing. But I don't always feel like, I feel like a bit of a fraud when people say that to me, because I'm just doing my thing. I'm just Emma from little old Morecambe and Lancaster. Like, I don't feel like it's a big thing, and I think it's that whole numbers thing that I feel like I need to do more and be up there more. So yeah, that always surprises me that people are like, oh, aren't you doing well? And I know that I am doing well, and I'm still here recording. But yeah, it always makes me think like, oh, am I?
That's good then, isn't it, to get that feedback?
Yeah.
A bit of a reassurance that you're on the right track and you're building.
Yeah.
I guess. So yeah, what keeps you going?
I love it. Literally love doing it so much. I love connecting with people. I love giving parents a voice. Quite often it can be like a little bit of a therapy session. Not just for them, sometimes for me as well.
It's amazing what you learn, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
And you learn so much from, and I think because the questions are what they are, you don't always expect them to bring out some of the stuff that it does, and then when you start delving, and it does. Yeah, I just love it. It's addictive. I find it really addictive.
That's quite a good thing to be addicted
Yeah.
to, isn't it? Something that, like...
Hi, I'm Emma and I'm addicted to podcasting.
Especially my own podcast. I think there's like further scope for that to be explored. So, favourite things about your podcast, apart from it being addictive? What makes it addictive?
I don't know, actually. I don't know. I think it is good when you see those numbers going up, even though I'm not like a numbers person. Yeah, it is nice to see the numbers going up, and I love seeing other people share either the episode they're on or even sharing other people's episodes.
And I guess the whole kind of ethos of what you're doing is to reach more people and to give people a voice, and to share.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a perfect fit, isn't it?
Yeah, and I love it when a guest comes on and we're covering a topic that we've not really spoken about before, even though I'm asking those same questions and something new has come up. And it's just, like you say, it's just giving a voice to parents and getting those topics out there as well.
Yeah, and in terms of getting more, like the numbers and the statistics, even though that's not necessarily like the reason for doing it, as they go up, you know that more people are hearing it.
Yeah. That's a bit scary, actually.
But that's kind of what you want to be doing.
It is, but it's scary.
So it's going to be really interesting. So it's been over a year, hasn't it? But only kind of just, I think. What do you see moving forward, like for the next year? If we were to come back this time next year and have a similar conversation, where would you ideally like this year to go for you? What's the bigger vision?
I obviously want to keep growing the podcast. I would absolutely love a studio to record in. Like better mics, like a proper setup. I want to do better at the tech side, so like actually film the episodes so I can get those up on YouTube, which I've started trying to do, just short ones, but the tech side is like the really tricky bit for me. Obviously hitting record and sitting and talking to people is the bit that I love, but the technology side I'm just not I do it and I've learned loads, but that's kind of the bit that I struggle with. So yeah, just keep growing, a proper setup with like a studio and better equipment, and then I'd like to get a couple of big names on.
Well, I was going to ask. So if you were to, I don't want to put a number on it necessarily, but if there's like a couple of people that you would absolutely love to have on your podcast, and maybe to say which series that you'd like them on, who would they be?
I mean, I've talked about this before, like I've named a few names before, like big names. So I'd love to get Rachel, who's part-time working mummy, and her husband on, Mrs. Hinch.
Have you done that? Have you done like two people?
Yes.
Before? You have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we had Emma and Jake on.
Okay.
That was really good actually, because I wanted to kind of see if they matched up, like their answers and stuff, and that was a really good one.
Okay.
Yeah, Mrs. Hinch. I'd love to get Sue and Noel Radford on. So I've been watching their 22 Kids and Counting that's out at the minute.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that they talk about within the episodes that I'd love to get them on and kind of open that up a bit further and kind of give them a chance to say their side of it as well.
Yeah.
I don't know who else. I kind of always gravitate towards the series 1 guests. Obviously the series 3, the Seasons of Parenting, that's quite a new one that I'm still figuring out and working with, so I'm sure there'll be lots of people that I'd love to get on that one, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. So there's a local lady that's meant to be coming on, and I'm really looking forward to that episode because I think she'll have some really good points to talk about and just be really, really insightful. Her children are grown up now, and she's had she's experienced all sorts of different things in her life, so I think that'll be a really good episode. And then I have got another big one lined up, which I've mentioned again on my social media, but I'm not going to reveal that until it's secure and booked in. I'm just kind of sat waiting.
Okay, so it's kind of watch this space.
Yes.
Really, on the year
Fingers
to come.
crossed. Yeah.
And just building as you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
I've had a couple of people now that have come back to me that have been guests and said, "Oh, you've inspired me to start my own podcast."
Oh my goodness! Really?
Which is like, yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's like quite a big thing, really, isn't it? And that, so I guess I just want to say, like, it's not easy. It can be a bit of a slog, like doing all the bits. When you hear a podcast, you don't always kind of think of everything that goes with it. Obviously, you're recording, you're editing, which is the worst bit, and then getting it out there for people to hear. But it doesn't mean, like, it's hard, but you can do it. And I think with everything, I guess I do, I'm quite determined. I'm not always confident, but I'm quite determined. So I just want to say to anyone that's kind of thinking of doing anything, not just a podcast, like, if you really want to do it, just go for it. The worst thing that's going to happen is it's not going to work out. And if it doesn't work out, at least you've tried it. You can't look back and say, "Oh, I wish I'd have tried it."
I love that. That's such a nice... That's
so inspiring.
I know! What an inspiration. But that's such a nice point to end on, I think, isn't it? Because it's kind of, you're walking the walk as well as talking the talk. And that's really quite inspiring for people. So thank you very much for coming on your own podcast.
Thank you for hosting my podcast.
My pleasure.